Good morning. Welcome to episode 10 of the Austin Real Estate Today radio and show and podcast. Perry, we are at episode 10. Happy September 17th to you. Got a jam-packed show today, so I think we're going to jump right into it. But first, you had a banner weekend this weekend. You're selling listings almost as fast as you can put them in right now, aren't you?
It's crazy right now. It's very unusual. Four offers in one day for one of my listings this past week.
Well, and we're going to get into a little bit about the market today. I'm going to go through the total market overview, so I'll save some of that commentary on whether we think this is going to slow down or what the changes are potentially given some of the news we're going to talk about. But with that, we've got, I don't know if you want to introduce our guest or have him do it. We've got on here, we're going to have two of them, but Patrick Duke is on here, and I think, Patrick, you can hear me okay, can't you?
I hear you fine.
Hey, sure. For our listeners, if you want to give a quick introduction, we're going to have you tag along for our news, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the projects you're involved in as well.
All right. Well, kind of in a nutshell, Duke Capital Management does a lot of investing in multifamily projects. Right now, we feel that that's an excellent opportunity for us. And on top of that, we also do a lot of condo conversions. The downtown Austin marketplace is phenomenal, as both of you know, and we have done 8 or 9 projects at this point in the downtown area where we go in and we find something, completely renovate it, change it, make it new and hip, and then we turn around and sell them. Our latest project is a terrace on Shoal Creek, which is at 1101 Shoal Creek, and Perry there has been doing a stellar job for us, and that about half the units already sold.
Fantastic. I know we're going to get into some details on that. I appreciate the intro, Perry. Let's jump into the news, and feel free, Patrick, if you want to give us your take on any of this. But we always on the show jump into a little bit of real estate or Austin-specific news. And Perry, I don't know that you saw this before I sent it to you, but KB Home hit a home run down in Circle C, and they're almost sold out down there. And they've been hunting around Austin, and the rumor is their land development people are bidding aggressively, and they've come out with this project in Leander, a mammoth project. It's over 1,000 residences. It's right, basically near Crystal Falls. It's a huge project that's going to take them 10 years to build out on 330 acres, and they're going to be delivering homes at least at the price points today, estimated between 200 and 300,000. I think it's interesting because until the toll road went in and got completed, that corridor really struggled, didn't it?
I believe it did.
And
Patrick, you live out that area, don't you? What do you think about it, that project out there, that space?
Well, from my perspective, there used to be a difficulty with transportation. In other words, if you lived at Crystal Falls or you lived out in Avery Ranch or beyond, getting back into the transportation infrastructure just took you way too long, and people didn't want to live out there unless they could work close. And with the opening of the billions of dollars of infrastructure for the toll roads, it really presented an opportunity for growth. Problem was that was coincident with the crash in the real estate market. So the capital markets dried up for many, many players, and they pulled back. A lot of the big builders like KB Homes had options. They released a lot of land, and things kind of went into a stagnation period. But now that these builders, it doesn't matter if you're D.R. Horton or KB Home or whoever it is, have validated that there's demand and it's not slowing down, you're starting to see them, and I think we're going to see more of this. Because there is definite demand for new construction.
Well, I think that the new construction presents its own challenges when the average buyer wants to buy now versus waiting for a project that has to be purchased, land, curbs and gutters thrown in, and then we have a 6-month building cycle. I think that's going to create a lot of opportunities for the inventory that's out there selling now versus waiting maybe a year to get that first house built.
Absolutely. They won't be delivering anything until well into 2013. But I do think that with people like KB Home, they tend to be more aggressive on delivering product. They don't deliver their medium to upper end product without contracts, but they certainly have shown in the past that they'll be fairly aggressive, especially if they've got a decent sell-through in delivering product, including a fair amount of it on spec, once they understand what the demand is. So I agree with you overall. It's a huge plus for that corridor and that market. I think that for some of the people that may have bought product that could compete with it. KB's knock has always been, historically, and there's a huge caveat, historically, it's been an issue with the quality of the product they build. Now, if you walk through their homes that they're building in Circle C, either of the several projects they've done there, you will see a completely different product than they've built otherwise. So depending on what they deliver up there, they may present some challenges for people with the resale market in neighboring communities because they're building a much more high-quality product. They brought a lot of their design features in from the West Coast, from Arizona, and it's a product that is pretty competitive. And if you look at Circle C, what they're building there, if they bring any of those elements up there, even at a lower price point, it's going to be a challenge for some of the resale market because people have bought homes that, to a buyer, if they can buy a spec'd home, it's going to be a pretty competitive product.
Well, I think the next item on the news is going to affect that too. General Motors opening up and bringing in those knowledge class workers in that same area. That'll probably help a lot.
Yeah, you know, I haven't been able to get any strict intelligence. I'll give you an anecdotal story. And what will happen is once they announce where it is, I think you'll see a lot more traction. But what's interesting is I got a call from somebody who listens to this podcast that lives up in the Michigan area. That, lo and behold, when I Googled him before I did a little search before I called him, he's a senior engineer and has a background in logistics for the automotive industry. In other words, he works in the technology and logistics side of the auto industry. So I asked him, and for obvious reasons he wouldn't confirm whether or not, but I thought it was pretty interesting that he came in looking for homes. And the only comment I'll make about what he said is that where he wanted me to set up searches for homes was for an office that's going to be along the Capitol of Texas Highway. So It's interesting. They've announced Northwest Austin, but I don't know where they're going to put it. I think there's going to be a lot of bidding from competing players as to where they want to put that, and I'm sure GM is fairly far along in the process, and they're not really intimating as to where the location is. And the wild card in all that may be that he's not even coming in for GM. He didn't confirm it, but I thought it was kind of ironic.
It sounds like we have Blaine England on the phone from Austin Terraces. How are you doing today, Blaine?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Hey, Blaine, sorry about the challenge getting in here. We're just kind of running through the news. It's Kevin Cottrell from Remax Austin Skyline on here with Perry and Patrick. So we were just getting done talking about the General Motors facility that got announced for the IT knowledge workers and just the continued positive news that we're seeing about the corridor. We just got done talking a few minutes ago about the KB Home project up in, they got announced in Leander yesterday, or last week, excuse me. So, Perry, what are your thoughts about the, the news here from the standpoint of new construction? Do you think we're going to see more from more builders, or do you think that that's still constrained?
Well, I follow the demographics. I'm a big fan of the demographics of America. I mean, they suggest that the big 4-bedroom plus home, unless you have a double master or a casita, is on its way out. All those, I put it in every week. Name 3 people you know that just got the last one out of high school into college. There's a lot of those out there, and I think that that's been the biggest challenge. One of the reasons why I invited Patrick and Blaine today is because I see more of their product, the urban infill product, becoming a really high demand in the next over the next 5 years. I think that's going to be the real sweet spot for builders.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up because I know we're going to talk about both of their respective interests and projects. And one of the questions we'll get into when we talk with them is sort of the demographics, what we think is driving that part of the market. We've got a couple other news stories in the meantime we want to run through. The first one we can go through fairly quickly because if anybody wants to go back to our extended podcast where we talked about winning in a seller's market as a buyer, we'll have in the show notes the CNN Money article. It was interesting. So many buyers going into markets, and the article talks about Florida, but this is in spades here in Austin. Buyers that come in from out of town need to get real, is what they said, write clean offers, and work with experienced agents that understand multiple offers. It sounds like they were listening to our podcast, doesn't it, Barry?
I hope so.
it is completely in line with what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. So if you go back and listen to that podcast from a couple of weeks ago, it definitely mirrors what our advice is. And I unfortunately see a lot of buyers missing out because they haven't picked the right agent and they don't have the right strategy for buying. You know, I'm sure in your case, in the house you sold this weekend, 3 other buyers lost out. Only one buyer.
3 other buyers.
Yeah, so it's definitely an advantage for buyers to use the right agent, have the right strategy. They need to be having completely clean financing and offers that are clean. So, again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on that, but let's get into the QE3 announcement by the Fed. $40 billion a month, extended guidance all the way into 2015. And what's interesting about this is this is the strongest stuff that's ever come out from a stimulation standpoint that has a direct tie to mortgages because they're doing housing-specific product. And as we talked about before we started the show, what's interesting about this is it gave the market, meaning the stock market, a huge pop. But I think just my take on it, and I'll let anybody else that wants to chime in on it, it's going to be tempered by the fact that on the supply side of mortgage production, in other words, the mortgage channel, it's been constrained for so long after the crash that even if they have the Fed sitting at the back end of the channel saying they'll buy securities, they don't have the staff internally to ramp up, even to take advantage of more mortgages. So this is going to end up with them buying a disproportionate amount of what's currently being productized, if you will, and pushed through the mortgage channel. But as far as any huge increase in mortgage production, we're probably 18 to 24 months off before mortgage companies would feel confident enough to staff up. If you look at how they've handled the downturn, it takes them a while to change their pace, doesn't it, Perry?
It does. I see longer and longer closing times, especially for FHA-type products. You can go through the 30 to 45-day process very easily.
You know, and I'm glad you brought up the FHA because we can talk a little bit about that in the context of condo conversions and condo projects because warrantable units can either be great news or a challenge for projects.